Should we get into it? I'm too excited.
You're too excited. You can't wait. Yeah,
I'm too excited.
It's pretty awesome. So yeah.
Yeah. So we have an exciting special guest in today's podcast. I've said you know what the theme has been already this month, but our surprise guest this week is Dr. Peter Fisher. So he joins us from LA. He is a research fellow with the Movember Institute of Men's Health. Originally from Seattle, Washington, he completed his PhD in social psychology in UCLA in 2023. He ran track and cross country in college, and now you can find him making the occasional appearance in men's basketball leagues across the greater Los Angeles area. So, hey, let's roll that guest clip.
Roll it up. Here we go.
That's special.
Hey, welcome in, Pete.
Hey, guys.
Welcome, Dr. Fisher.
Dr. Fisher.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for that very generous intro.
We're thrilled. We're thrilled to have you. So thanks for hopping on with us. See if we can throw you up on the highlight.
There we go. Let's give Pete the attention.
Give him his big screen debut here.
Good stuff.
Let's is Pete a fellow beer leaguer himself? Sounds like basketball's the poisonous choice. Huh?
Yeah, that's been me. I like you mentioned, I ran track and cross country in college, just at a little D3 school up in Portland called Lewis and Clark College. But after college, I kind of quickly found out that running stupid amounts of miles on your own and without a team isn't as fun. So I got into pickup basketball, and then pretty quickly graduated from that into some co-ed leagues, some men's leagues when I was living in San Francisco, and so doing that occasionally today when time permits.
Nice. And we all have a little bit of pickup in there somewhere. That's that's always the joke of
not anymore.
Beer league society. Yeah, everyone it's like, where's the beer? I'm like, no. Beer league is a level of athleticism or competition that we have left in the tank after the peak form of like high school and college. So
I don't know what you're talking about. That's what I strive for is that level of athleticism.
Right.
That's like if I land somewhere close to that, I'm happy. But no,
it's a mindset thing. Yeah,
it is exactly. It's totally a mindset for sure.
Exactly. So could you tell us just a little bit, it's kind of about yourself, about your journey, kind of, what brought you with the Movember Foundation?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a background in social psychology, which is, a branch of psychology where you look at kind of the societal factors, the social norms, the environmental factors that influence behaviors and beliefs. And in my PhD, I studied a couple different things, but one of my main lines of research was looking at kind of how men perceive and conform to more traditional ideas about masculinity, and was playing around with different intervention approaches to kind of help men navigate those pressures in ways that were showing kind of masculinity doesn't have to be this restrictive kind of really constraining thing. It can be something that's expansive and inclusive of these like positive behaviors, like having emotional conversations, showing love to other people, and being vulnerable. And so that was kind of the basis of my research during my PhD, and did a couple studies on that, wrote a couple papers, and then finished up in 2023, and which was around the same time that Movember actually started the Movember Institute of Men's Health, which is our internal kind of research team and impact-focused strategy hub at Movember. They were looking to hire some folks in the U.S., and I just happened to be on the job market at the time, and then it was a great timing situation that it worked out, and I'm very lucky to be in this position where I can kind of continue the research that I hold like very near and dear at an organization that has such great values and such great impact like Movember.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. You love a good timing, right place, right time, stories, especially when it's something like this. Especially the fact that it ladders up so well to what you were already passionate about and doing ahead of time. So that seems like a match made in heaven.
Totally. Yeah. It's a great crew of researchers where the research team is spread across, Australia, the US, and the UK. And it's, people united by the same kind of interest and passion around just men's health, and coming out from different angles. We have clinical psychologists, folks in public health, We just brought on somebody who's an evolutionary anthropologist. So it's great to have folks with like different perspectives, but sharing the same kind of goals around kind of improving the state of men's health.
Right.
Nice. Do you still get a chance to do like some of the same? Like I was super intrigued by the research of like, masculinity and the norms associated with that. Do you still do a lot of research around that stuff specifically, or are you doing more broad stuff?
Yeah, we're doing. I mean, there's a whole sets of different portfolios, including actually a sports portfolio, like sports psychology, and using different kind of sports programs out in the community as kind of points of intervention for bringing in mental health into those settings.
Yeah, kind of meeting them where they're at, right?
Exactly, yeah, which is very much Movember's approach in terms of being engaging and accessible. It's the research team is not in some ivory tower, doing research just to like talk to other academics. We're doing it in service of creating these programs that are creating real impact and measurable impact that we follow up with, and like we're making sure to document and building up evidence to kind of create change at different levels. In Australia and the UK, Movember has like close partnerships with the national governments to create like men's health programs, and so like some more systematic policy frameworks there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And in the US we've been working with like at the community organization level, which is awesome, and starting to have some conversation with governors and at the state level, which has been really cool. But yeah, my research team in particular, we focus on a couple different projects. We actually just put out this report called the U.S. Real Face of Men's Health Report, which is kind of this comprehensive landscape overview of the state of men's health in the U.S. Brought together some data from national data sources, some surveys we commissioned, looking at men's experience of primary care and men's experience of caregiving, and also being caregivers of men. Some really interesting findings in there. Specifically around social norms and kind of the role that social norms play in both being barriers to health for men and kind of getting in the way of help-seeking behaviors and having conversations with friends and leading to some of that social disconnection and poor mental health outcomes. But also ways that they bring men together, like the beauty of a beer league, for example, of like creating a space for social connection that's tailored to kind of how men like to interact, where a lot of what we talk about as researchers is that men don't always engage face to face. They engage shoulder to shoulder, like doing a shared activity. And the beer league is like a great example of that, or like a sports team, or like, doing woodworking together. A lot of the stuff that guys tend to do. And so that's kind of something.
Making beef jerky and,
Sure, yeah. Whatever
if you're making beef jerky with friends, right? You're
right.
Smoking up that meat, yeah.
Absolutely. Right, nothing says friends like bumping elbows, making beef jerky.
Yeah. We gotta pause to get this out of the way real quick, Cody.
Oh, good to see you, SO. Yeah, we have every podcast SO's in here asking for the kiss, and who am I to say no?
Yeah, he's been like already chomping at the bit, like 3 messages I think, and since he started the show asking for that kiss. So on the topic of shoulder to shoulder with buddies and stuff like that,
right.
I don't know where kissing falls on that. On that spectrum.
We're breaking down barriers here.
Exactly. Break down those stigmas. Shoulder to shoulder, face to face, whatever whatever you need.
Lips to lips, whatever you need.
Lips to lips, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, I thought that was particularly cool. I think that resonates with me a lot too. I know like just enjoying activities with your buddies has a lot more health benefits, mental health benefits, than I think a lot of people tend to realize. And you also touched on the fact that a lot of men don't necessarily know how to share like their feelings quite from time to time. And so I think having that shared activity can sometimes, if you're cognizant of as a guy who maybe does struggle with that, know that when you're out there playing ball with your buddies and stuff like that, you're doing yourself some mental good, like from that. It's not just out there just to be the competitive thing. And that kind of resonates with me a little bit as well too, because I do wish that more men were open to like sharing their feelings and stuff like that, and stuff. But we have a segment of therapy on this show sometimes, but I think it mostly just is about why your team sucks. But I think
it's more or less venting.
Right. Grief counseling. It's important.
Right, exactly.
We try to get people to open up as much as they can. But
Yeah, but yeah, going on the topic of meeting men where they're at and everything like that. I know that it's difficult to have those conversations if sometimes if that that someone is struggling, but if they're in isolation or you're not having that one-on-one, you don't see if something feels just a little bit off. Like it can be difficult to even know that there is a problem, right? So being around people that you're comfortable with, that your buddies, one, spotting the signs. Two, if that comes up naturally, it feels a lot less, I'm sure, as you're like, it feels a lot less judgmental or being cornered if it just comes up in natural conversation when you're already there, right? So, opportunities to spot, but also, ask how you doing,
Yeah,
right.
totally. And I feel like for a lot of guys, it can feel like there's a hesitance or like there's stigma around asking that question that's like one level deeper than how you kind of normally interact. But
Yeah.
I mean, in my experience and what we've seen from the research is that pretty much any time that you ask me like, hey, like, what's up? What's new with you? What's going on in your life? Like. It's almost always warmly received, and it's like everybody's got something going on, and I think there's a lot of like mental barriers that prevent people from having that. For like my experience is like oh, if they do say something serious, like how am I going to respond, and it's like
Right.
a lot of times you don't even need to say that much. It's just the act of listening is like kind of
Right.
as therapeutic as like recommending resources or other things. So it's really like a low lift thing to go that next step. But yeah, I think it is funny. I think it's not, even for some men, it's not necessarily like a conscious barrier. It's more of something that they just never think to do, especially in settings where it's like maybe more of like a relationship built around a shared activity. But that's why it's nice to like in true beer league fashion. My favorite experiences with like teams that I've been on is like maybe we had a bad game, maybe we won, but we went to the brewery afterwards and we had a little debrief session, and that session is all like it made whatever experience we just had on the court that much better, of just being able to just kind of hang out and process and chat together. So yeah, there's really something to that.
Yeah. Well, there's I play in a men's softball league, which is where a bunch of the gentlemen that are in the chat are from. But I always joke, after every week after we play, it's always like, hey, we heading to our bar. And it's like, yeah, it's the whole reason I even come. The best part of the week is our bar afterwards, because it's wings
Afterwards,
and beers
right?
and I mean, yeah, you go enough. I mean, they give you koozies and stuff. So
Yeah.
we
Shout
can
out
come
to our
every Wednesday
unofficial.
for 7-8 years.
So you're a
Right.
good patron. Yeah. No,
Right.
yeah. I'm a guest when I was in grad school. I'd spend summers up in Seattle when I was able to, and I had a friend who had a softball team. Shout out Bats Amore, one of the best names I've heard for a softball team. Terrible team.
Solid.
You lose by 20 runs, but then go to the Water Wheel, North Seattle afterwards. Just wind the night away with some good stories, and it was like, yeah, it was just, I don't know. There's something beautiful about that whole experience. Yeah.
Totally.
I gotta ask, what even when you were in college, what really drove you to pursue men's health in the lens that you're looking through? Like, what really drove you to that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because it's really my experiences doing sports as like a student athlete in college are pretty closely tied with like the origin of why I got interested in studying masculinity and these social norms in the first place. And it was really this kind of disconnect that I was seeing between these guys that I knew to be like really thoughtful and empathetic, feminists, like very like respectful guys, and then the locker room, just the most heinous, objectifying language and just like bro code, everything. And it was like the code switching was unreal. And I was like participating in it, but at the same time, I was like, what are we doing? This feels
Why?
weird.
Yeah.
Like what
Yeah.
is this song and dance that we're like, it felt very performative. But at the same time, it was like, I'm getting something out of this. I'm feeling like I'm part of this group and it feels good. And so I
Right,
was
you're
like,
getting
keep
almost
doing
like a
it.
sense of community, even if it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
not how you would normally act.
Exactly. It's like that belonging, and that's really powerful. It's like a very basic psychological need, which of course I
Yeah.
learned later. But in the moment, it was more like, yeah, like this is interesting. And I started to note that like weird kind of disconnect, and then I would like see how these guys, same guys that were, you know, saying these heinous things would then go and like be completely different people in the classroom and at parties and stuff. And I was like, what's going on here? Like, why do we feel like we have to do this? And like,
Yeah.
what is like, where is the truth here? And so I was really interested in kind of this idea of like what norms, like what are the pressures that led us to that place of feeling like we had to act that way. And that was kind of how I got started with studying like social norms and how they influence behavior. And the idea of like the social norm of being this kind of invisible force that like really has a powerful influence, and it's really contextual, where it even if like you're on the same campus, if you're in the locker room versus in a classroom, completely different, right? Like you could be espousing different views around what you think about women, and it could be like a 180 from what you were saying like 10 minutes earlier. So
Yeah.
that to me was super interesting, and I wanted to kind of unpack that, and so that was like kind of what got me started. Um, on the research side of things, getting into the men and masculine space, and then like later on, I kind of the way we talk about it now at Movember is we call it this perception gap around masculine norms, and we talk a little bit about it in the Real Face of Men's Health report that I mentioned. But basically, the perception gap is this idea that a lot of men have certain values and beliefs that they hold, but then they feel like there's a pressure to act in certain ways, especially with other men, to feel belonging, to maintain
Yeah.
their status in a group, even when every other guy individually in the same group might be feeling the same way, where it's like
Mhm.
Right.
they're like misperceiving this group norm, and when individually everybody's like, I wish I could just like take it easy and not have to say this stuff.
Mhm.
And that's really interesting. And I think part of it has to do with the masculine norm of maybe not engaging in those feelings of reluctance and like opening up about it. So there's that piece. And another piece is like it's this weird like kind of invisible layer that also is like a glue where it like brings us together. So we don't really want to like jeopardize that by
Ruin
like
that. Yeah.
rocking the
Yeah.
boat, you know. So
Mhm.
there's different factors, but that's actually something at Movember that we're starting up a big research program on. And so we're going to be diving into some of the like what are the psychological drivers of why that misperception exists, what are some interventions to address that, specifically related to health, because you know we're talking about kind of like the social side, but when it comes to, you know, what is a normal amount of time to go to like before when you get injured before going to the doctor, you know, it's like that perception gap starts to have a real like toll on your health if you're like thinking about like misperceiving a norm around, oh, I need to be self-reliant, I need to not like admit weakness, or
Yeah.
else other people will judge me. um, but deep down you're like, oh, I need to like get help, right? And so
Mhm.
it applies physical health, mental health, relational health. So yeah, there's a lot there to unpack, and the research on it is kind of mixed. Not there aren't a ton of like existing studies on these kind of phenomena, and so plenty on like social norms and the influence there, but less on the kind of that perception gap piece. So
Yeah.
that's a big focus that we have going into 2026.
Super cool. Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of, I think, you know, like the health aspect of it is something that I'm, you know, hopeful that we can, as guys, as a gender, we can kind of come to grips with the fact that we shouldn't be performative when it comes to things like physical health, relational health, emotional health, stuff like that. You know, like the locker room stuff, you know, like obviously, I mean, like we've all engaged in it as well too. I I happen to feel like as long as you are the antithesis of that in your worldview, and you know, like that's cool. Like it's less, I think it's less harmful to like be performative in that, because I do agree. I think like we tend to you know, like sit there and do that because we think everybody else wants us to do that, but probably everybody in the
That's
room's like,
what's expected, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting. I'm sure it's like fascinating to be able to like connect the data to that sort of stuff in
Mhm.
like a scientific way for sure.
Totally. And yeah, I do want to say that like the examples I said were kind of like, you know, objectifying women, and that's part of like
No, of course, yeah.
creating more cohesion by, you know, othering or like talking about external group. There's also the flip side of that though, where it's like you can be more playful when you're in these settings. You can
Mhm.
have more fun, you can like be more creative, be more loose, and then that goes away when you're out in the world and you feel more constrained and restricted. So it's like that's a
Right.
misperception too. It goes both ways. So it's like, yeah, I think it's just super interesting that the contextual forces at play. And so
Yeah.
yeah, that's another thing, is like it's not all bad. I think it's
Yeah.
Right.
it's
I mean,
we just want to
there
understand it better.
there definitely is a lot of bad though too. Because I mean, like as a Chicago sports fan, like we've seen that play out in the locker room. Aspect of things has played out to a very terrible level. With our hockey team as well too. So like, yeah, not trying to downplay the fact that it can rise to a very toxic and terrible situation that actually harms people for sure. But yeah, I just, like I definitely know that I've felt like I've been part of that culture where you go in there and it's like everybody's just bro coding it and and talking and hooting and hollering and stuff like that, and that like that aspect can sometimes be playful and fun to your point and stuff too. So very interesting stuff. But yeah, like where do you draw that line between being playful versus being harmful?
Yeah, and I think one more thing here, Cody, is that I think it's not necessarily that like every locker room the norms are going to reinforce the worst behavior. I think it's something about, it might be more about the flexibility to have like not go to 100% every time when you're in the locker room, maybe to like bring it down a notch, and it's like feeling like you can do that and still feel like you belong, and so I think it's there's like gradients there. It's not black and white, and so that's another thing we're playing at, is like the extent that people feel like they have to do it, right, versus like being like, oh, I know that that's kind of a pressure or like something that people are navigating the space. I don't personally feel like I have to get into that. And it's like, how do we get people there, right? And so there's a lot of like different interesting questions that open up when you start looking at the space.
Yeah, even if you're just being mindful about or conscious about like, okay, don't push it to the point where I feel I'm being performative, because then it almost feels like you're lying. You're lying, you're not being your true self and everything like that. Which is funny because it may naturally, just by itself, again, as that naturally kind of goes down, other people may naturally come down with it if they're feeling like they're being performative, so which is interesting.
Yeah, it's true. I like that. The authentic self is like really a powerful kind of like motivator, when people really strive to be in settings where they can be themselves, and so when that's limited, they feel like you're just like put in a box, you're constrained. And so it's like, how do you help? And like, that's the framing at Movember that we try to take, because that's one that like resonates with men, where it's like, how do you like level up and like get out of that mindset that's actually holding you back and like not allowing you to express yourself or to, do these behaviors that you want to be engaging in. So it's a great call out.
It is interesting. I wonder if there's a correlation, especially as you're going through phases of your life where, you start, getting married, you have kids, you get, higher up in your job or change, and just your dynamic changes. I wonder, have you seen any correlation between going through different phases of life and then how willing or unwilling you are to be performative? Because I can definitely tell, like, your friendships change throughout life, regardless of if everyone's in the same wavelength, and I wonder if you just, if there's that correlation of like, what, maybe I'm going to hang out with these people more because I feel like I don't have to be performative, regardless of what it is. If it's masculine, if, whatever it is, just be closer to your true self. And, as you're going through.
Totally. I think that life stage lens is really interesting. And I think we all know old dudes in our life who we would describe as, not giving a hoot about what other people think, and like going to the grocery store and like what they woke up in, and like all that. And that's something to like, I personally strive for that level of freedom of expression.
That's the goal, right?
But but I'm not quite there. But I can say from the data, what we've seen is that, ages 15 to 34 is really when mental health issues kind of spike. That's when men are at the greatest risk of suicide. But for men who are 65 and older, it shifts quite a bit, where now it's more about like heart disease and cancer are shaping that. So mental health issues, not to say that they're not still there, that's just not the like main kind of drivers of poor health that we're seeing. And I do want to shout out a great group that's doing awesome work in the social connection space, specifically for older men. It's called Men's Sheds. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but it's like
tell us about it.
Meeting men where they are. It's literally a group, and it started, I think, in Australia, and it's big in the UK and Canada, and it's just kind of starting up in the US. But it's this idea of like getting men together to do stuff, and it's like volunteering in the community. It's like mentoring kids. It's like woodworking, doing projects, model building. And then they also have like talks where they'll bring in speakers and like, or like have roundtable discussions around different topics. But it's very like actionable, action oriented. And it's big because, you know, if we're taking this life stage approach, you know, men 65 plus, much more likely to have gone through these big life transitions that sometimes jeopardize the social network. So things like divorce, retirement, losing that professional network, you know, friends moving away, friends passing away. So yeah, I think that's definitely an age group where taking an approach to like be more intentional around building social connection in ways that are responsive to men is important. And what I've seen from, you know, interfacing with this group, and there's actually research to back this up, is that men who participate have stronger mental health outcomes, report having more friends, and better physical health because they have people like, you have a network of accountability when you're engaging in this. Like, oh, Fred didn't show up the last 2 weeks. Let's check in on him, you know? And it's just little things like that. So all these little benefits from just having just a stronger social network as you age, which men, I think, is a risk that network really shrinks or is non-existent into later life. And so, yeah, that's just a cool org. And it's like there's also a purpose element, you know, as we get older, especially if you retire, you know, it's like, how do you spend your time? How do you feel fulfilled? And then, you know, mentoring, giving back to the community, showing off those woodworking skills you've been doing for 40 years to some teenagers. Like that's all like powerful stuff, you know, in terms of getting up in the morning and having that to look forward to. And so those are all like buffers to mental health that we're seeing from that program. So yeah, shout out US Men's Sheds. They're doing great work.
That's awesome. I mean, I've talked about this before, as I can always tell, you know, I call out the softball team again, you know, as someone who works from home full time, you know, I rarely leave my house unless I have to, unless like taking the kids to school or something like that. Outside of softball season, where I have on Wednesdays I'll go out, and that's when I get my like socializing in, right? But
Yeah.
I can always tell, especially in like the winter between your fall and spring league, like I can tell the difference in my like mental state of like when I feel like I'm starved of that like, you know, kind of camaraderie, that like, you know, that guy time. So it's I love the idea of, you know, kind of setting up those opportunities, communities for kind of people to come together and again, and it feels natural because you're doing something you're interested in already. You're just doing it with other people, you know?
Totally. Yeah, it's building community. I mean, it's like, yeah, that's what it's most basic. And I'm glad you brought that up, Cody, because my question for you guys was going to be like, you know, as you've had kids and like moved through these different life stages, how have you managed to like stay in touch with your communities and your friends? Obviously, starting a podcast is one way.
I was like, I found starting a podcast helps.
Yeah, but for those of us who haven't done that yet, what else can you do?
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably like the worst. I think part of my personality outside of mental health is I'm just terrible at keeping connected with people, and
it's tough.
and so I found that my relationship group outside of like something like this podcast or work really fluctuates a lot because I'm just, you know, like, and I think there might be some of the stuff you touched on with the, you know, reaching out, your ability to just like, to ask how people are doing, like keep that cadence of doing that. I don't really do that. And so I lose, you know, like friend groups come in and out of my life pretty frequently, as a result. And I'm still kind of searching for what my face-to-face friend group's going to be like in the fatherhood years. You know, my kids are 4 and 5 now. They're just starting to get into like social activities at school and sports and stuff like that. And I remember as I was growing up, my parents' friend group was mostly centered around that. And so I'm kind of anxious for like that part of my life where I start to meet some people from my son's, you know, various social activities and sports that I can kind of connect with there. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the toughest things is just to keep in contact with people to bridge through those gaps, especially if your friend group doesn't align in terms of what their, you know, like their life events, you know, are. Like if you don't get married at the same time, you don't have kids at the same time, there's lots of changes that happen that kind of puts distance between you emotionally and physically a lot of times too. So yeah, I think that's a hard part for sure. I don't have a great answer, but Cody may.
No, I was like, to piggyback off of what you're talking about, there's definitely, I was literally just talking about this over the weekend when I got a chance to connect with some buddies I haven't been able to connect with in a while. And it's really interesting, especially in that like first 2 to 3 years of having kids, especially your first kids. Um, there is that weird, that like transition of like, you're like naturally kind of like distant, you're like, start finding yourself, there's like this gap forming between you and your current friend set because you're just so like out of it, like, sleep deprived, all that stuff. You're also, you're trying to keep this human being alive that there's really not a good book to like keep you to teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
But then before, but then there's that gap between like, okay, well, I'm just trying to keep this thing alive. I'm losing connection with the ones that I've been hanging out with. But then there's a gap between that and like when your kids start making friends and you can start making friends with their dads. And that like 3 to 4 year gap is real. I mean, it's and there is that like, that sense of like, you know, it can be tough. It feels like a transition period, and it feels like you're just in a holding pattern a little bit in that
Hmm.
situation. But I can definitely connect with that, Andy, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy, I love what you said about it's not just physical distance, it can be emotional distance where it's like people at different
Mhm.
life stages, even in the same city. And I've,
Yeah.
I've felt that with my friend group. So I don't have kids, but I've have friends who, have started having kids or multiple kids now. And it has, yeah, it's made it harder to be in touch with people who, I was very regularly in touch with now. And it's because their social circle has drifted more towards the people they're spending their
Yeah.
time with who are other parents and stuff. And that's
Yep.
just like,
That are familiar with what they're going through.
exactly. Yeah, there's just a different shared
Kids take a
experience.
lot of time.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and that.
I don't know if anybody's told you that. They
Yeah.
take
yeah,
up a lot of your time.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's forced me to kind of be more intentional about like, oh, like this is somebody who he was the one initiating this, and now it's like I have to initiate if I want to like
Yeah.
maintain that relationship. And yeah, it takes
yeah.
work, and it's not something that was necessarily within my power, but now it's like I'd be like, oh, like what can I do to, shore this up. But yeah, it's like I say that as like if I have it all figured out. I absolutely do not. I just organized like a brunch meetup with some friends and with my partner. I was going down the list of people and I was thinking like, man, when's the last time I even like met up with them?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it was like some of it was like pretty long, and it's like
yeah,
man, and it's tough. And I think we have to give ourselves some grace though because there are factors outside of our control that are affecting that, like technology and like pandemics, for example. There's
right.
Right.
a big movement away from like in-person connection that's kind of being accelerated by like technology and things. And so that's absolutely real, and that's a pressure that everybody's navigating too. So I think we need to give ourselves some grace, but also, we have agency when it comes to being the ones to initiate contact and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. One thing that has helped me, honestly, even if it's not necessarily like physically seeing people, but just making sure I'm reaching out, is I have ADHD. So prior to being diagnosed in my early 30s, I had to like write down everything. I was
Mm,
post-it notes everywhere. I was like, if it's out of sight, out of mind, I'm gonna forget it. So
yep.
in my like late 20s, I started like I have a physical like day planner, and I don't
Hmm.
know if you can
That
see. I
thing's
don't want to go
awesome.
too close,
Yeah.
but
That's
like,
cool.
but I in there, there's in the first three things I start every day. If what are three things I'm grateful for? What are three things I'm excited about? And then who are three people I'm going to reach out to today?
Oh, that's awesome.
It's shocking, and it doesn't even have to be like a hey, how are you doing? How's your day? It can be like a oh, this is a great meme. I'm gonna send this to Travis, or oh,
Mhm.
I'm gonna send this to my buddy Brandon. Like, but it helps me get out
Routine.
of that like deep, like if I get deep in the zone, the blinders are on. I'll look up. It's 3 o'clock, and I've done nothing. Like I've done eaten lunch. I didn't put that little laundry in. I didn't do any of the things for myself because I'm so laser focused into work. So like
God, maybe I
having,
have ADHD.
I'm telling you, it's
You're like,
I
yeah, you're
I didn't
you're
get
nailing
diagnosed until I was like 33. So like, but
it.
I knew I struggled with like focus and organization. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to put in some processes to help me because my squirrel brain, it's tough, especially like as you start getting further and further in your career. and the mental stamina and requirements just get more and more and more. I'm like, all right, I got to figure this thing out. But yes, I mean that's something that I start my day 5-10 minutes every morning when I sit down at my desk, and it helps me, from a reflection standpoint. Also helps me kind of put my day out. Nothing feels better than checking boxes on your to-do list. So that's one thing that's helped me kind of literally remind myself to reach out to people.
That's great. And if you ask me, like, what is one habit that every guy should get into, it is that. It is like build, like, have a list of like today, or like set a calendar reminder, like today I need to reach out to this guy. Today I need to reach
Mm-hmm.
out to this friend. And that, I think, would really go a long way in terms of like fostering social connection, or at least creating that like impulse to do that. Because I think that's
Yeah.
where a lot of guys struggle, is that they just don't have that impulse, and then they realize
Mm-hmm.
after they started feeling bad, which is almost too late in some ways, where it's like
Right.
you've already missed the opportunity to have social connection that would keep you in a good place, and now you're like suffering. And so
Yeah.
just getting in the habit of routinely doing that, whether it's in like a physical to-do list, or calendar reminder, or whatever works for you, I think that's such a good habit to get into, and I love that.
Sweet. Well, we want to be cognizant of your time, but I still have to get at least one more thing in. You mentioned that basketball is your sport du jour. So, who's your favorite team, and why is it the Chicago Bulls?
Yeah, the 1995, 1996
I'll hang up and listen.
Chicago Bulls.
Wait a minute.
Oh man, I mean, this is a bittersweet topic for me because I'm
I
from
don't know if you can
Seattle.
see Mr. Jordan in the background
yeah.
up there,
yeah,
John, but
He's got the Jordan poster. So,
yeah, I'm from Seattle, so lost the team going on almost 20 years now, which is
you may get one back.
tough to think. Yeah, they say that every year, but yeah, hopefully it's
Yeah,
coming.
probably.
But I mean, I will say I'm a Blazers fan. They're scrappy. I went to school up there. I was going to the games when they were not the best, and they're still kind of putting it together. But Dame Lillard, and the energy and passion he has for the game, and the way he just like leads that team, and the love he has for the city is infectious, I will say. And it's so fun to watch them hustle. There's a lot of good heart. And when I was there, CJ McCollum was there, and yeah, I loved the kind of dynamicism of the game that they brought. But yeah, it's cool now. I'm kind of like a basketball nerd. I love the like different chapters of game, and the different strategies and offenses that get played and stuff. And yeah, I liked watching that Portland team, even when they were not doing it well. It was fun to watch.
I was
We don't
halfway
know.
expecting Seattle Supersonics, like Gary Payton, Sean Kemp.
Sean
Like-
Kemp, man, yeah.
I gotta say, if we're talking vintage Sonics, I'm a Detlef Schrempf guy all the way.
Oh, nice,
Yeah,
Detlef.
that's my guy right there. So yeah.
I had that.
hilarious.
Sean Kemp was the guy I hung my hat on. I know I just said that I'm a Bulls fan, obviously, but like he was the one I decided to collect because everybody wanted to collect Michael Jordan cards. You couldn't get your hand on a Michael Jordan card when I was a kid. I went with Sean Kemp. Somewhere in my house in Elk Grove, Illinois, at my parents' house, there's a binder full of Sean Kemp cards that aren't even worth the cardboard that they're printed on right now. But that was the guy I thought, and now he could basically field an entire NBA team with all of his illegitimate children. So,
You know what, the Rain Man, I love it. He's got some of the best highlight reels out there. Some of those dunks.
he was a highlight machine.
man.
for
I
sure,
mean, that one where he dunked on, who was it? It wasn't Del Curry, but he like pointed at him afterwards. Man,
Oh yeah,
it doesn't get better than that. That's
Yeah,
top tier stuff.
he personified like NBA Jam during like the NBA Jam era, basically.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was a video game character in real life. The net would catch on fire when he dunked. It was
But right,
real. Great
That's
stuff.
awesome.
Well,
Well,
yeah, I mean,
Pete,
can't thank you enough. Yeah, so
Yeah, seriously.
I'm sure Andy echoes my sentiment, but yeah,
Absolutely,
I can't thank
yeah.
you enough. I see, for a 1 month, for a foundation that focuses on 1 month, the fact that we got one of those days during that month, it's a true honor.
Huge.
Is there anything outside of the men's health report that you're talking about that you want to promote?
No, I mean, thanks, Andy. Thank you guys so much. This has been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Happy to make time during our big month for this kind of conversation. I will say, based on what we were talking about, another resource that Movember put out that might be helpful and might be of use is called the ALEC method, and I can send the link to you guys to share that. But
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
just like a framework for folks who are, maybe wanting to check in on their guy friends, the guys in their life, but maybe don't feel like super confident. It's a step-by-step framework with examples, template questions, and like video talkthroughs of how to do it. And so that is like, if that's the like hesitation you have, check out that website. Get in the habit of checking in on the guys in your life, and use the ALEC method. So that's
Sweet.
my plug.
Hey, here.
Awesome.
I'll cheers
indeed.
to that. But
Yep.
yeah. Well, thank you so much again. Keep doing what you're doing. Doing incredible things for an amazing foundation, but also something that will impact all of us. Even if it's not us, we all have friends, partners, fathers, brothers. Dear ones that we love. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much, and yeah, it's been an honor, man.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Pete.
guys. It's
Appreciate
really a
it.
pleasure. Appreciate it. Take care.
Take care.
Cheers, man.
All right.
He was awesome.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was huge. And yeah, if you are so inclined, I've got the QR code up as well too. Please feel free to make a donation if you can, and if you want, definitely let us know when you do. Throw a chat message in there, and we'll get you highlighted for that. But yeah, that was great.